Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Scott, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Mike, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles, and all the CMF. JP, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? How was your day, Miles? It was very early days, what I would have to say. It was a very busy day. It was all over the place. How was your day, Mike? Repost, everyone. Let's go, Scott. Facts. Thank you so much to everyone who has already reposted essentially this live show straight away by joining into the live. Good evening, Miles and CMF Free and Forever. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hello, Miles. Hope you're well. T, good to see you. How you doing? Good to see you as well. Hope you're well too, brother. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Manny, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Okay, let's do intro, disclaimer, and what we're going to talk about on tonight's live. And by that time, everyone should be tuned in for the first part of the news. Welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Pretty much vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. The disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And this is episode 392 of the CMF Live. We're on episode 392, which is absolutely incredible, to be fairly honest. And I also want to say we also do Q&As on this live as well, as always, which means if you do have any questions, don't be shy, put them down in the comment section. More than happy to help you out. And also, thank you so much to everybody from the CMF who straight away smash the like button, smash the retweet button, and then join the live as well. If you haven't done that, CMF members, drop a like and drop a retweet as well, and put a comment outside the live also. And thank you so much to everyone on YouTube who's watching right now, who's also liked the live too. Now, the first news we are going to be covering on tonight's live is regarding the Trump administration, what's happening with the tariff situation regarding China, and a bit more news to go on in terms of prospective news coming out from Standard Chartered Bank, and some other banking-related news as well, some Fed news to go through, obviously some Ripple news to go through on tonight's live as well. But before we go through any of that, let's go to the comment section first, and then we go straight to the first news. So let's see where we're at. We were here. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Free and Forever, good to see you. How you doing? T, good to see you. How you doing? Manny, good to see you. How you doing? Morning, Miles and CMF. Shelly, good to see you. How you doing? Morning, Shelly. Hi, Miles and CMF brothers. Paul, good to see you. How you doing, brother? How you been? Evening, Miles and CMF. Jason, good to see you. How you doing? Guys, all that are new. His name, Miles, and equates to integrity. Trust me, if you stay around, you will confirm what I say. Scott, thank you so much for the kind words. Hey, Miles and family. Comatose, good to see you. How you doing? The market is still down, and the shopping cart is filling up. Best way to look at it. Let's go, Mike. Now, there's a reason why the markets are a little bit more down today. And it's something to do with this. There are other matters that are playing out as well, but this has a role in it too. The Trump administration is imposing a $34 million essentially tariff on shippers. The Trump administration announced new tariffs and port fees against Chinese shipping companies, imposing a $34 million tariff bill to confront China's essentially maritime sector dominance. Not only is the US going to be tariffing China 100% on all their tech, essentially, or exports, imports, they're actually going to be also tariffing them in some sort of a way on essentially on their shipping costs in terms of a $34 million essentially tariff bill. This measure is essentially aimed to protect US essentially maritime interests, but may escalate trade tensions even further with the US and China, potentially impacting global shipping costs and essentially the market stability. The Trump administration has enforced new tariffs, resulting in the $34 million tariff bill on Chinese shippings. This action is a part of the broader strategy to address China's dominance in this entire sector. President Donald Trump authorized these tariffs to essentially counteract. So this is what Trump essentially said. The trade practices essentially that is put on is a retaliation of what China has done or is going to be doing. The financial burden primarily impacts US businesses and farmers, increasing shipping costs by at least 25% for Chinese imports. Retailers and importers have expressed concerns over potential price hikes. These fees are also expected to raise the expenses, eventually passing the cost on to consumers. The US trade deficit may widen, affecting the trade relationships with China. Current data also indicates that potential regulatory challenges for US ports, the essentially redirecting of funds, affects both the maritime infrastructure and the offshore essentially wind projects, underscoring the new tariff regime's influence on financial and strategic essentially sectors. What Trump is actually doing is putting even more pressure on China to come to the table. Xi Jinping was supposed to come to the table essentially with Trump in a essentially South Korean meeting, but apparently that meeting essentially fell through, for us we know. But this should put more pressure on China to come to the table, and it does show that Trump is definitely not backing down. In fact, he's going even further. The administration essentially actions mirror the prior tariff increases under the Section 301 investigation. Historical trends do show that these measures impact in export revenues and trade balances during essentially similar periods of economic tensions. Experts are seeing this possible trade deficit and reduced export competitiveness, drawing parallels with previous tariff cycles. The emphasis essentially on traditional shipping rather than digital assets keeps this action distant essentially from typical crypto essentially market fluctuations or essentially influences, is what they're saying. But the crypto markets were definitely impacted by this news. US trade representatives, the United States has taken action to address China's attempts to dominate shipbuilding and related essentially maritime sectors, which distorts global markets and disadvantage American businesses. Trump is essentially, since his presidency until now, has done his best, try to make the US the capital of imports and exports, and try to take some dominance away from China. It's exactly what he's doing again, a continuation of what he said he's going to do before he becomes president of the United States. He's continuing on what he said. This should essentially, shift the focus of Americans from buying foreign products to buying American products, which actually helps American farmers, in fact, compared to essentially what was happening before, where they were buying products as when they were buying foreign products. Not that it's a bad thing, buying foreign products, why not? But America was losing quite a bit of dominance, and like this, it could get its dominance back. It's the part that the news always leaves out. The news will say Trump doing tariffs is bad because it puts more essentially pressure on the consumers, on the American businesses, on the people that are paying the taxes and the tariffs of these products. But what they're not saying essentially to the people is essentially that by doing this, it should essentially, make people start buying American products, which helps out American businesses, American farmers, American and so on, instead of relying on foreign products. But they won't tell you that on the news for some reason. Now, Senator Luminous is what we're going to talk about next on tonight's live. Moving on essentially from what was essentially discussed today regarding more extra tariffs on China to Senator Luminous, which is a positive note. Senator Luminous backs open banking for crypto growth. US Senator Cynthia Luminous, a vocal advocate for digital assets, essentially, for digital asset adoption, is pushing for open banking regulations to keep America at the forefront of financial innovation. Yes, the markets are all over the place and Bitcoin is all over the place and it's not following essentially gold, even though gold did take a dump. However, on the other side of the spectrum, they are still talking about regulations regarding crypto sector inside of America. They are trying to pass something or add something to current regulations. In a recent statement by Luminous, emphasized that modernizing financial access is essential for crypto and fintech growth in the US, especially as a gold competition heats up. Open banking, which enables consumers to share their financial data with third-party apps and services, has already gained momentum in Europe and parts of Asia. Senator Luminous believes that it's time the US followed in suit or risked falling behind. Luminous essentially didn't mince her words. She directly warned the large US banks resisting essentially open banking rules that are effectively stifling competition and creating barriers for new players, particularly inside the crypto space. What this does is essentially give green lights to companies like Ripple, who are applying for essentially banking licenses and a Fed master account. It gives a green light to essentially for Circle to expand even further because they also applied for a banking charter license, and Paxos and Anchorage. Luminous essentially, regarding her persistence that America is falling behind if they don't essentially open the banking infrastructure to third parties or tech firms, that America will fall behind, which is quite true. This isn't just a regulatory issue, it's an economic one. With countries like the UK, Singapore, and the UAE actively embracing digital assets, is what she said, the US essentially risks losing talent, investment, and innovation if it doesn't modernize its financial framework. In the most simplest way to put it, she's basically saying that the banking sector in the United States has too much of a monopoly going on. And if they don't let go of that monopoly or open the doors to fintech companies or third-party apps, they're going to be falling behind because they're going to become dinosaurs compared to the rest of the world. Luminous has long supported clear crypto regulations and innovations, and her latest push for open banking reflects a broader strategy to ensure US remains a hub for responsible crypto developments, not a place for innovators to feel shut out. For the crypto industry, her comments signal continued political support at the federal level, but also warning that time is running out to act. A few things are quite important on what she said. One, the banking sector in the United States is definitely monopolized. I mean, when Ripple essentially applied for a Fed master account and a bank charter license, we essentially got, the OCC and the SEC got bombarded essentially with emails from these banking associations telling the OCC and the Fed to slow down progress for fintech companies. And that was bad. It just shows how much the banks are weaponizing these essentially organizations to start sending emails and letters to the FSC, to essentially the OCC or essentially the Fed. Two, with her stating this, it's interesting because she was mostly pro-Bitcoin regulations only. But now widening her scope and mentioning that, the banking sector should open their arms and doors to the tech firms, to the innovators and so on, that's an interesting play from her because she honestly was very, very pro-Bitcoin regulations mostly. So this is an interesting, essentially, angle that she's going at, and I'm very happy that she's doing this, to be fairly honest. And three, this is definitely going to give Ripple a green light, especially with what the Fed said yesterday regarding, the loophole they're opening up for firms, private companies, to be able to have access to essentially the Fed master accounts. It's brilliant. Honestly, things are falling into plan, even though they might not look like it on the charts. Now, moving on from Senator Cynthia Luminous to the Democrats. Before we talk about the Democrats, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go into what's happening over there. So let's see what's happening inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions or comments, go further inside the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see where we're at. We were at here. Hi, Miles of CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? Anything on XLM today? Not much on XLM, no. Good evening, Miles. Good to see you, Michael. How you doing? Can you please explain how we can get income off our XRP? So, for example, if we had £1 million XRP asset, could we expect 5%, and who and how would we do that? If you had £1 million worth of XRP, could you expect 5%? Do you mean how you can live off 1 million XRP? You can borrow against your crypto assets. Obviously, the money that you do borrow doesn't get taxed because, you can't tax collateral. When you borrow against your crypto assets, you put your XRP down as collateral, and the money that you receive, you can't get taxed on debt. However, when you borrow against your crypto assets, if essentially the markets do tumble and you aren't able to essentially cover the rest of the collateral, because where you essentially put your money into, the prices, the markets could be here, for example, on any asset, XRP, Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin. Let's say you borrow at the market level of here and the market goes down, your collateral might not cover it anymore, which means if you don't cover it, you will lose your original assets, the assets that you put down as collateral. So those are things that everybody should be fully aware of, which I explained a long time ago as well on the live. But that's one way you can essentially earn on your crypto assets. You could borrow against it, but always make sure to pay it back or cover more on your collateral, or borrow less so that you can cover your collateral just in case the market does tumble. Again, this is not financial advice in any sort of a way. You can also essentially you can move country if you wanted to. You can go to countries that offer you better essentially services for essentially a crypto person. So for example, Monaco offers better services. Portugal offers up to 5 years, essentially tax-free type of scenario. Dubai also offers some sort of, services as well. Singapore is not bad as well. Hong Kong is not bad either. America actually might become a hotspot the more Trump keeps on essentially backing cryptocurrencies and more regulations keep on coming out of the United States, America could also become a very good hotspot for essentially crypto investors or people who just want to live off their crypto money. But you can borrow against your crypto assets, you can sell your crypto assets, or you can just move country. Again, none of this is financial advice in any sort of a way, just a personal opinion. Now, how are you today? Michael, great. How are you doing? Sorry about my grammatical errors, family. No, Scott. Greetings, Miles and CMF. Ray, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? Share the live. Hit the like button. Let's go, Scott. Miles is goes integrity. Let's go, Scott. Happy Pisces. Let's go. How you doing? How you been? Big facts. Let's go. Let's go, Ray. Hi, Miles and CMF family. Let's go for facts news. What are the news, my friend? Quite a bit of news to go through on tonight's live call. Quite a bit of news. And your perfect timing. Let's go, Ray, for big facts. Hello, Commander Scott. Good to see you. How you doing? Hello, my friend. I hope that you had a good day. Good evening, Professor Miles and the rest of CMF family. Funky, good to see you. How you doing? What have I missed, bro? We just talked about essentially the increase of a tariff situation on China's shipping, which America has done about $35 million, essentially. Good evening, Miles and family. Ian, good to see you. How you doing? Maybe I have to catch up later on. You're still good. You're perfect timing in. Hi, good evening, and CMF group. How are you doing today, boss? I'm doing great, Carlos. Good to see you. How you doing? Miles, what do you think about staking your crypto? Is that taxable as well? You can also stake your cryptocurrencies. It can be taxable depending on jurisdictions. We don't have certain regulations yet in place, for example, in the United Kingdom or some other jurisdictions around the world. However, please make sure that, if you are going to be staking cryptocurrencies to earn an income from, just make sure, based on your jurisdictions, that there are laws in place. Most countries still don't have any laws in place regarding staking. Staking has been discussed in the United States, but they still haven't passed any taxation codes for it either. I love our CMF group before and after the meeting. We are active and bringing attention to our group and mental. Let's go, Scott. Greetings, Miles of CMF. Lena, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Now, the Republicans have essentially had a sit-down. Essentially, they're going to be having more sit-downs with crypto, essentially, CEOs. And the Fed has had a sit-down with crypto CEOs, and so has the Senate. Now, the Democratic senators also had a sit-down with the crypto CEOs. And things got interesting. And, well, let me just share you what happened at the crypto CEO sit down with Democrats today. Democratic senators meet with cryptocurrency giants today in the US, and here is some leaked information from the closed door meeting. The closed door meeting held in the US Senate between Democratic senators and prominent figures inside the crypto industry was a scene of controversial moments. According to sources who attended the meeting began approximately 30 minutes of introductory speeches from essentially industry leaders who presented their expectations for the bill. You see, the Republican Party likes the idea of a Clarity Act. The Democrats, not so much. Not all Democrats, some Democrats. But, however, tensions rose at the meeting as it progressed through. Now remember, the crypto CEOs had a meeting with the Fed. It went very smooth. They had a meeting with the Senate. It went very smooth. They also had meetings with Republicans. It went very smooth. And then they had a meeting with the Democratic Party, which, so this is the part. However, tensions rose at the meeting. Senator Stanley warned crypto representatives not to act as an extension of the Republican Party. Democrats said that trust has been damaged. Now, can you believe that for a second, that Democrats are telling crypto by the way, the crypto CEOs that were supposed to be at the meeting is like Coinbase, Ripple, Chainlink, Kraken. So there was not Chainlink, sorry, Ripple, Coinbase, Kraken, and a few other firms were at this meeting. And can you believe that the Democratic Party had the cheek to come out and tell these crypto CEOs when they were discussing why crypto is good? All the crypto CEOs, representatives were saying why crypto is good, why innovation is going to be brilliant for America, for the citizens, for the country, for the financial sector. And then the Democrats saying the words of essentially you know, they're saying basically that the crypto space shouldn't become an extension of the Republican Party, or that trust has been damaged. Well, if you think about it, who damaged that trust? Because during Biden's essentially presidency, crypto firms were essentially being sued left, right, and center by essentially the SEC, who was weaponized by the banking essentially sector, who behind that was Senator Elizabeth Warren, Nancy Pelosi, and the entire Biden administration of Democratic freak shows criticized the entire crypto space, pushed the crypto space out of the United States. And now the Democratic Party is coming out and saying the trust has been broken with the crypto companies. The crypto companies are backing Republicans. Well, of course they're going to back Republicans, because during a Democratic, essentially Joe Biden presidency, crypto companies were sued by the SEC for millions to billions. At one point, Ripple was sued for $1 billion by the SEC. And you think what? Ripple's going to turn around and essentially, come to some sort of understanding with the Democratic Party and not back the Republicans? The Republicans are the ones bringing in the regulations right now. It's the Republican Party that are trying to brought in the Genius Act, that are bringing in the Clarity Act, that are trying to bring in more regulations. Senator Cynthia Lumina is also coming in and trying to opening up the banking sector for the crypto space. The Trump administration essentially told the OCC, the FDIC, the SEC, the CFTC, they have to become pro-crypto. Trump got rid of Gary Gensler, the main culprit that was weaponized to go after the crypto space during Biden's presidency. So it's interesting that essentially the Democrats are coming out and saying, why is the crypto space becoming an extension of the Republican Party, and we don't trust them because of that? Because you didn't give them any other option. They had no other choice but to join the Republican Party, because they've done so much more for them rather than trying to sue them into the ground and push them out the country. So it's very odd that Democrats are just immune to what's happened before. Now, by the leak of the DeFi regulation draft in recent weeks, and that essentially aggressive public statements would set back the legislative process, they're saying. The Democrats are saying, because we don't trust you, because you've become a Republican extension, we don't trust you. Well, nothing has changed, because they didn't trust them at the beginning either when Biden's essentially administration was going on. The Democratic senators rejected claims that negotiations were slow and expressed their determination to finalize a bill. The Democratic Party is saying, no, we didn't try to slow down the crypto space. Senator Elizabeth Warren tried to increase taxes on crypto users. Republican senators also reportedly had some reservations about the current bill. Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer also reportedly attended the meeting, which was organized by Democratic Senator Christian Gilbert to revive stalled negotiations on crypto regulations. So, the crypto space had a meeting with the Republicans. It went smooth. The Senate, it went smooth. The Fed, it went smooth. The Democrats, just lies. They had a meeting with the Democrats, which was just completely back to back. The Democrats completely lying through their mouth, as they usually do, to be fairly honest. No one's surprised about that one. But let's hope they come to some sort of a conclusion, because they never do. Now, moving on from the Democratic essentially meeting that happened today to stablecoin dominance. Stablecoin dominance outshines Bitcoin in market moves. While everybody's so focused on essentially Bitcoin or altcoins in that sense, stablecoins market space is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is actually strengthening the US dollar in a way. Stablecoins are becoming a bigger deal in crypto. Many people are focusing too much on Bitcoin's footsteps, or essentially altcoins' footsteps, and the share of the market that Bitcoin has. But the real game changer is how much stablecoins are dominating the space right now. Stablecoins started at just over 1%, essentially over 1% of the market in early 2020, and jumped to more than 14% by early 2022. This happened because when the market got essentially shaky, investors moved their money into stablecoins to play it safe. After hitting essentially that high point, stablecoin dominance dropped to about 6% by mid-2024, but has been climbing again since then. By late 2025, it reached 7.19%, and essentially experts expect it to keep growing, possibly hinting at 10% soon. Besides tracking dominance, the 2025 crypto adoption and stablecoin usage reported by TRM Labs provides context for this rise. South Asia, especially India and Pakistan, recorded an 80% increase in crypto adoption between January and July 2025, reaching about $300 billion in transaction volumes. India kept this top spot in adoption for the third year running, followed by US, Pakistan, the Philippines, and Brazil. The US essentially market also saw a 50% increase in crypto transaction volume, surpassing $1 trillion during the first 7 months. Regulatory progress such as the Genius Act and the White House Digital Asset Report supported this growth. Furthermore, about 30% of all cryptocurrency transactions use stablecoins. Stablecoin transactions grew by 83% year over year to a record $4 trillion by essentially August 2025. With over 93% of the stablecoin market space, Tether and Circle were in control. Retail adoption also accelerated sharply, with retail transactions growing more than 125% compared to last year. TRM Labs report emphasized that in some jurisdictions, adoption has accelerated in response to regulatory clarity and institutional access. In others, it has expanded despite formal restrictions or outright bans. This contrast highlights essentially how crypto moves steadily into the financial mainstream. A key trend underscoring this shift is the rise of stablecoins, the report added. So, during this up-down type of situation that the market's going through right now, the shaky stage that the market's going through because of China tariff situation, because of the government shutdown situation, and the extra tariff situation today, stablecoins are growing day by day. Well, year over year, we have an increase in terms of market dominance regarding stablecoins. And this is actually going to strengthen the US dollars in the long run, because RLUSD, USDT, USDC, PYUSD, any stablecoin you can pretty much mention are backed by fiat bonds and US bonds and essentially fiat and other assets. And every time essentially Tether prints more USDT, they're strengthening essentially what they print by these essentially by the commodities or essentially by the fiat US dollars, which in fact actually strengthens the US dollars even further in the long run. Again, for everyone that did think for a second or still thinks to themselves that the US dollars will go to zero, well, this government shutdown situation and the China situation is actually going to strengthen the US dollars in the long run. Because as more people will sell their positions and move into stablecoins, printing more stablecoins have to back those stablecoins, which will most likely be what they stay on their own websites, is essentially fiat US dollars, bonds, and so on, which in fact actually enforces the strengthens the US dollars even more, which is one factor nobody's looking into. Now, Coinbase and American Express is what we're going to talk about next on tonight's live. Moving on from essentially stablecoins to Coinbase and American Express. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there, and then we go straight into the next news. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, go for it inside the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see where we are at inside the comment section. We are at here. Susie, good to see you. How you doing? Evening all. Carl, when you talk about borrow your assets, are you taking the type of platform where we stake our assets? Staking is very different to, it's somewhat different to borrowing against your assets. When you're staking your crypto assets, you're actually helping that essentially infrastructure of whatever blockchain you're using. If you're staking essentially XRP or Solana or Cardano or essentially Ethereum, whatever blockchain you're staking, you're actually helping that essentially blockchain itself, and then you're getting rewards because of that. When you borrow against your assets, you're putting a certain amount of essential cryptocurrencies down as collateral and borrowing against it, which then you would have to pay off. Now, if the market goes through shaky grounds and your collateral no longer covers what you borrowed, you would have to top it off. If you don't top it off, then the platform you borrowed from will sell your crypto assets to cover the collateral. That's one thing that everybody should consider when it comes to borrowing against the crypto assets. Good evening, Miles. How you doing? Kali, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Alex, good to see you. How you doing? Okay. And regarding borrowing against your crypto assets, when the time is right, I will essentially, obviously, as I said previously, I'll help everyone as much as I can when the time is right to find the best path for the CMF regarding whatever path you do want to take, essentially borrowing against your crypto assets or moving to a different country, or essentially any other path that you wish to take. We'll find the best solution for you. Obviously, that wouldn't be now. It would be a much more essentially later deadline. But however, when the time comes, I'm more than happy to help as much as I can. As I said previously as well. Good evening, Miles. How are you doing today? I'm doing great. Can you see how you're doing? I've just joined the chat. What is this convo about cryptocurrencies? Fantastic. Let's go, Alex. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Peg, good to see you. How you doing? Miles, I am registered Democrat and embarrassed by the behavior of many of the Democrats. I am pro-crypto and conservative in many areas. Geez, man, these folks. Let's go, Scott. Okay, cryptocurrencies. Yep, that's what it's about. Hello, family. Let's go, Scott. Now, Coinbase and American Express. So if you are essentially a citizen of America, you can now get a Coinbase American Express Bitcoin-backed credit card. Coinbase and American Express are bringing Bitcoin rewards to everyday spending with the launch of Coinbase One Card, a new US exclusive credit card that blends traditional finance with crypto incentives. The partnership marks one of the strongest, essentially, crossovers yet between a major exchange and a legacy payment giant. Unlike previous essentially crypto cards tied to the debit system, the Coinbase One card runs on the American Express network, offering members up to 4% back in Bitcoin on their purchases, issued by essentially First Electronic Bank. It also includes the familiar essentially Amex benefits, purchase protection, travel perks, and cashback style bonuses framed through essentially digital asset lenses. And the rollout essentially reflects Coinbase's push to normalize crypto within daily financial habits rather than treat it as a speculative side essentially venture. The next wave of adoption will come also from utility, not just trading. And Coinbase essentially said in a release, positioning the card as a part of its broader strategy to weave digital assets into everyday finance, and market sentiments reacted quickly. Bitcoin saw a modest rebound following the announcement as investors essentially interpreted the move as another signal essentially to reinforce crypto's footsteps in the mainstream payments. Analysts also essentially suggested that structure could also help drive more liquidity through small recurring purchases, effectively turning consumer spending into micro Bitcoin accumulation. Still, the card is tiered to reward systems starting at 2% and scaling up with higher holdings, and may favor essentially seasoned investors over casual users. Yet, with Coinbase's 100 million plus customer base and AMX's global footprint, the product could accelerate with essentially what competitors like Gemini and BlockFi only hinted at: a true merger of crypto and credit card essentially rewards users worldwide, leading digital currencies instead of fiat points. So if you are essentially someone that does essentially, is an American citizen and wants to have some sort of a crypto bank card, now you have more options. You have the Gemini card if you want to go for it, you have the BlockFi card, and now you have the Coinbase One card. With every purchase, you essentially get some sort of percentage of Bitcoin back as a cashback, essentially 2% starting out, 4% increasing to max. Now, moving on from American Express and Coinbase coming together to Citi. Before we talk about Citi, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there before we talk about Citibank. Let's see what's happening. Carlos, thank you so much for the $20 donation. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, brother. Miles, when you stake, okay, no, we were here. So Miles, would it make sense to sell a lot of asset to cover whatever you may be trying to do, and then hold on to the remaining for securing one's future? Yes, 100%. Again, not financial advice in any sort of a way, but the best option would be to, when you reach a certain number, and everybody has a number in their heads, if you want to, you can put your numbers inside the comment section, CMF. For everyone that's watching right now, CMF members or non-CMF members, if you want to, just out of curiosity, what is your number to jump out? Some people's numbers might be 1 million. Some people's numbers might be 2 million, 3 million, 5 million. Some people's numbers might just be $500,000 and jumping out of the crypto space. But yes, the best option would obviously be to, when you reach a certain number that you have in your head, to sell a certain amount and then just keep the rest essentially in that asset and just let it ride and just use whatever you sold for yourself. Again, obviously taxes may apply depending on jurisdictions, not financial advice at all. But just out of curiosity, what is your number to jump out? Just out of curiosity. Now, I asked my friend, essentially, what's your number to jump out? And he said 4 billion. But just out of curiosity. So no number's too high. Don't be shy, anyone. But what is essentially everyone's number? Just out of curiosity. Miles, I read that HR was... Okay, now we're here now. Miles, when you stake your crypto, is the amount locked up? Can you continue buying crypto and add to the staking? You can't. If you stake your cryptocurrency, if it's flexible staking, you can. If it's locked staking, you can't. Miles, I read the HMRC have written out to more than 100,000 people regarding their crypto asset taxes that they need to declare them from January 2026. They will get our data from every exchange. The HMRC is obviously going to be cracking down in 2026, essentially regarding crypto accounts and so on. And that is, but we still don't have regulations in place. So we really have to see how that essentially plays out, is what I would say. Doesn't matter which AMX card you have. I don't think so, but no, it does. Regarding if you already have one, no, not really. But you have to apply for the Coinbase One card. Is there anything tied to the MasterCard Black card yet? No. Where does Gemini card come from? US. So if you're in the US, you can get that. 100 million is what Crypto Don said. Why not? Crypto Don also said, still never sell, just keep borrowing. Let's go. Susie says 3 million, modest. Stormy says never, I'm keeping all my XRP. Funky Brother says there is no number as I am not selling at all. Fair enough. Some people just want to borrow against the crypto assets, and some people want to sell some and keep the rest. 100K and not jump out completely. Fair enough. Partial jump out, of course. Fair enough. Kerry says, essentially, I'll tell you my number if you tell me yours. My number to jump out is I'm following you, Miles, whatever your answer is. Okay. My number is to jump out more. My number is more. Miles, how about yourself? At what price point will you be happy with? That's what my number is. I'm not going to be slaved by CBDC, so I'm not selling just going to borrow. Fair enough. Yes, remember, if you do sell all of your crypto assets, then you're stuck in a CBDC world. I'm following you, Miles, whatever your answer is. Let's go. Miles, how about yourself, and what price point will you be happy with? Well, you got my answer. My answer is more. Depends how old you are. Well, once it reaches $100,000, I will sell 1,000 essentially, and then keep the rest forever, aka generational wealth creation. Let's go, Scott. I need XRP to hit 10K. Fair enough. He's laughing. Borrow and stake, never sell, leave for my kids. Fair enough, Mickey. Would you guys need XRP to hit to reach your targets? Great question. If you guys want to answer essentially Crypto Don's question, which is, what do you guys need XRP to hit, essentially, to reach your targets? 380 million, essentially, as what Funky Brother said, is what his number is. Now, while everybody answers that question, let's talk about Citibank. Citi gives a buy rating. The situation we're inside right now inside the market space is very, very shaky because we're still in the shutdown. We still have tariff situations going on. We don't have a Clarity Act, and the ETFs aren't passed. So it's a very shaky ground we're standing on right now inside the crypto space. However, Citi has came out and said they're rating it a buy. Rating strategy aimed at Bitcoin's upside and warns still of high volatility risk. Bitcoin-focused company Strategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy, has received a buy rating from Citi, with analysts essentially highlighting significant upside potential for the stock. At the same time, the bank warned that the company's heavy essentially reliance on Bitcoin could expose investors to sharp price swings. In a note essentially released today, Citi analysts said Strategy's Nasdaq listed essentially share MSTR stock could continue to rise if Bitcoin reaches 181,000 over the next 12 months, which aligns essentially with the bank's latest price forecast for cryptocurrencies. The stock closed essentially at $301.91, up 1.7% on the day, according to Yahoo essentially Finance News, still below its 2024 record high of $473.83. And Bitcoin essentially meanwhile traded around $111,490, down more than 11% from its all-time high of $126,080, according to data essentially from CoinGecko. Citi said that MSTR net asset value, essentially premium, could remain between essentially the 25% to 35% range, reflecting its historical essentially 2.5x to 3.5x Bitcoin yield multiple. However, this prediction essentially contingent to essentially on the cryptocurrency maintaining positive momentum going forward. Besides, the report emphasized that strategy's performance is closely tied to Bitcoin's price movements and overall investor sentiment towards the digital asset market. Citi cautioned that strategy's stock essentially remains highly risky due to its leveraged exposure to Bitcoin. And analysts noted that the cryptocurrency essentially valuation is almost entirely dependent on cryptocurrency's performance. As a result, essentially any sustained downward essentially turns in the coin's essentially price could lead to amplified losses for MSTR investors. And the stock represents essentially significant risk due to its positioning of leveraged proxy for Bitcoin. Its value is nearly 100% tied to somewhat volatile cryptocurrency, meaning that even a moderate decline in Bitcoin's price could lead to magnified essentially losses for MSTR shareholders. And Citi's analyst essentially strategy began accumulating Bitcoin August 2020 to seek higher returns aimed at global economic uncertainties during the pandemic situation. Now, just to give you a heads up of what these essentially public companies are holding in terms of Bitcoin right now in this market space we're in. Mora Holdings, which is essentially a Bitcoin mining corporation, holds about 53,250 Bitcoins, ranking among the largest institutional Bitcoin holdings in the United States. Nasdaq-listed XXI owns 43,514 Bitcoins. Metaplanet essentially comes fourth with 30,823 Bitcoins. Also, Bitcoin Standard Treasury Company essentially manages 30,000 essentially Bitcoin plus. Bullish essentially handles 24,300 Bitcoins. Riot Platforms, which is another Bitcoin mining corporation, boasts about 19,287 Bitcoins. And Trump Media and Technology Group Corp also holds roughly about 15,000 Bitcoins. During this downtrend situation we've been having, some institutions have actually been increasing their positions, while some inside the retail section might be panic selling. While several companies have followed strategy's example, analysts caution that such concentrated exposure to digital assets may not be suitable. Yes, in my opinion, 100%, the oldest rule when it comes to the market space is never put all your eggs in one basket. And unfortunately, these companies like essentially MicroStrategy or Strategy or MSTR, putting all their eggs in one basket is just crazy to me, to be fairly honest. Now, with Citibank suggesting that it's a buy signal for essentially MSTR stock, which is tied to Bitcoin, Standard Chartered Bank's analysts have a different perspective, but similar in a way. So on the same day that Citibank comes out and says buy, essentially Bitcoin's about to go back up and the market's about to recover, Standard Chartered Bank's analyst came out and said, yes, we are going to recover. However, we're going to have one last dip before we rocket back up. Analysts at Standard Chartered Bank have just predicted that Bitcoin may face another short-term fall as global tensions rise. Analyst Jeff essentially warned that top coins prices could drop below $100,000 due to the growing trade dispute between the United States and China. So according to Standard Chartered Bank, the situation between China and the US, the more it amplifies, the more we could see Bitcoin going below that $100,000. However, he also believes that the drop will be brief and could give investors a good chance to buy before the next major jump up. Bitcoin's price has been falling as trade tensions between the US and China grow. 2 weeks ago, the flagship crypto fell to around 104,000 after the US President Donald Trump announced the 100% tariff situation on China. President Trump has added to the uncertainty by saying that a trade deal with China may not happen soon. He also warned that tariffs could rise to 155% if both countries fail to reach an agreement before November. Trump also said that he may meet China's President Xi Jinping at the APEC summit next week, but even the meeting is not certain for now as well. And the added tariff situation on the shipping containers today made things a bit more worse. Despite the weak markets, Jeff from Standard Chartered Bank believes that the fall below $100,000 will not last too long. In a note to investors, to Standard Chartered Bank's investors, he said the price drop is mainly caused by market fear, not by Bitcoin's real value. He called it a possible buying opportunity for long-term investors. If Bitcoin goes below $100,000 and we still don't have regulations, and it happens during this time period right now, the government shutdown and China tariff situations, then the crypto space is going to go on a discount, crazy discount. If what Standard Chartered Bank is saying plays out. Kendrick expects Bitcoin essentially to recover and reach $200,000 by the end of this year. What Standard Chartered Bank is suggesting is Bitcoin goes below $100,000 pretty much this month, and then by the end of this year, which is in like 2 months' time, essentially the year comes to an end, Bitcoin is going to be reaching $200,000. So we're going to go below $100,000 this month. By the end of the year, Bitcoin is going to be $200,000. He explained that essentially, as the market cools down from the essentially recent liquidation situation we had, more investors will buy again, pushing prices higher. Sharing his essentially this correction sentiment is seasoned market analyst, also Peter Bandit. He recently predicted that Bitcoin could soon reclaim its all-time high, but not before one more major correction. On the bright side, Jeff said that possible US Federal Reserve rates could also support Bitcoin's price recovery. The analyst added that the ongoing inflows in Bitcoin ETFs are another major reason to stay positive. Even in a weaker market, he believes that Bitcoin could still reach $150,000, which he described as the bear case or the lowest likely target. Like essentially Jeff, many Bitcoin supporters expect the leading cryptocurrency to reach new highs before the end of the year. In September, strategy chairman Michael Saylor said Bitcoin may be headed for another upswing before the year end. So, two perspectives, one from Citi, the other from Standard Chartered Bank. Citi suggesting it's a buy signal, Standard Chartered Bank suggesting we're going to have one more last drop below $100,000 and then shoot up to $200,000. Now, moving on from those two perspectives, one from Citi, one from essentially Standard Chartered Bank, to Liechtenstein. Before we talk about Liechtenstein, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there, and then we'll go straight into the Liechtenstein news and what's happening over there essentially. Let's see where we're at. We were here. I gave my XRP as collateral, but never jump off. They are lifesavers. Let's go, Cali. Small sell to keep me going for a couple of years. By then, my forever bag will be worth millions. Let's go, Jason. If XRP hits 10K, then I will hit my targets. Fair enough, funky brother. I grew up poor. I plan to never return to that situation again, so I plan to utilize all of the critical and important information Miles has shared over the last 3 years to my future and my family's future, to apply to my family and family future. Let's go, Scott. Thanks, Miles. No problem, brother. Anytime. Miles, based on the responses in our group, it has humbled you of how many people trust you. That is a blessing and value within itself. Way to go, big guy. Let's go, Scott. Thanks so much for the kind words, brother. When XRP is over $100 per XRP, what's your opinion on putting it in a trust? If you want to put your crypto assets in an LLC or essentially a trust, it is your assets. At the end of the day, you can do whatever you want with them. If I had crypto assets, I personally wouldn't take that route, is what I would say. CMF, Miles, good evening. Good to see you all, Davey. How you doing? How you been, Davey? Now, Liechtenstein launches its own blockchain infrastructure, LTIN. Now, who is also essentially had a sit down with Liechtenstein's essentially government was Ripple, who also has a license with Liechtenstein's government to be able to have access to Europe, the EU in other words. So LTIN launches as essentially Liechtenstein's sovereign blockchain infrastructure network. A state-owned telecom, Liechtenstein provides regulatory compliant blockchain infrastructure for enterprises and institutions. Launch partners are essentially Bank Frick, Bitcoin Suisse, Solicitors, and Zilliqa. The Liechtenstein Trust Integrity Network, LINT, that's just been launched today. By the way, LTIN is not available for the public as of now, and I don't know if it ever is going to be available for the public, but they've just launched it today. If you do see, essentially, if you do see a token on CMC and CoinMarketCap, or essentially any other platform like CMC, like CoinGecko and so on, and you see LTIN, it's most likely not that token. It's just people pretending that this is the Liechtenstein token. So far, it's not available on a worldwide situation in any sort of way. But today has launched as a sovereign digital asset infrastructure network providing secure, compliant blockchain services to enterprise and institutions across Europe and globally. Operating under Liechtenstein's Blockchain Act with a full EU MiCA essentially R alignment, LTIN offers the only blockchain infrastructure built specially for institutional compliance and exception. The network is majority owned by Telecom Liechtenstein, providing a state-backed reliability for mission-critical applications. They said Linton represents a new approach for blockchain infrastructure where regulatory excellence meets technological innovation. With the Liechtenstein Trust Integrity Network, LINT, we extend the scope of Telecom Liechtenstein trusted national infrastructure for digital age into blockchain by offering sovereign trust and integrity services for global markets out of Liechtenstein, said Franz, the chairman of LINT. He also continued by saying, LINT builds on Liechtenstein's pioneering blockchain regulation and ensures that validation, identity, and transaction processing remains under national oversight. Our position essentially in Liechtenstein combined with state-backed creates the trust foundation that enterprise need to confidently embrace blockchain technology. Public-private partnerships at its core. Linton is structured as a public-private partnership with a unique participation model that unifies market participants and a know-how into a common good essentially framework. Linton also essentially is backed by a network of distinguished launch partners. Bank Frick, Bitcoin Suisse, Solicitors, and Zilliqa are recognized in the industry for their trust, expertise, and innovation. From day one, respected blockchain organizations and foundations such as Intercat Group, Luskus Foundation, QPQ, and Swiss Subnet have recognized the platform's potential and joined early to help shape this world-first initiative. Working with partners for digital assets industry serving institutional markets, Linton provides them with compliant infrastructure capabilities to build their services for end-to-end clients. And Linton expects to onboard additional also partners and encourage interested parties to join them. So again, if you do see the ticker LTIN, it's not this token in any sort of a way. They haven't launched it to the public yet, but they have launched it today from Liechtenstein. Now, is this Liechtenstein's government-backed token? No, it's essentially it's backed, yes, by Liechtenstein, but it's not their government token in any sort of a way. It's just an infrastructure program, infrastructure blockchain that's been launched in Liechtenstein that has a license to do so, and also an EU license as well. Now, moving on from that to T-Roll. Price has just filed for active crypto ETF. While the markets are on shaky grounds, a lot of things have been happening in the background. Before we talk about that, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see where we're at. Shelly, thank you so much for the essentially 31 Australian dollars. Absolutely amazing. Thanks so much, Shelly. Let's go. Much appreciation, Miles, for insights and latest news to help us all. Thank you so much, Shelly, for the 31 Australian dollars as well. Absolutely amazing. Let's go. Hey, Crypto Miles, how you doing? How you been? Have you looked into bank social crypto? I have. Stay away from it and don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Let's see what other questions there were. Let's see where we're at inside the comment section first. CMF Miles, good evening. Davey LLC. Okay, why Miles? Why Miles? Regarding LLC or trust. Davey messaged me after the live. We'll discuss it after the live. So no LLC or trust. What about Caleb and Brown? Or if Ripple creates something, Ripple Liquidity Hub. If Ripple creates a platform, then yes, why not? If you want to take that route, by all means. If Ripple it creates, in my case, I do think Ripple is going to create something. If Ripple is going to get a banking charter license and a Fed master account, most cases they do have plans for the XRP army or XRP users and so on to stake their crypto assets with Ripple and some sort of rewards, or do some other features with the XRP user base ecosystem in general. So if Ripple is going to be offering some services to the XRP, essentially followers, why not? By all means, I trust Ripple 100%, to be fairly honest, on what they've brought to the table so far, what they're going to be achieving later on. That's yes, 100%. I will trust it. However, other third-party platforms, not so much trusting in any sort of a way. It's something that you shouldn't jump into too quick, especially now that we still don't have the majority of regulations. As I said previously, if you want, essentially, the best option would be, not financial advice at all, the best option would be personal perspective, to wait for, essentially, the majority of regulations to come out, because the platforms that are offering LLCs or trust right now are not great platforms, in my opinion. Look, because later on, HSBC Bank is going to offer services, which they already are through Hong Kong, up to a certain extent. But HSBC Bank is going to offer certain services for the crypto space. Standard Chartered Bank is going to offer certain services to the crypto space through their Zodia custody. Metico, essentially through Ripple, or Ripple itself, is going to be offering certain services to the crypto space and so on. What I am trying to say is, don't rush it by jumping into third-party companies that most likely no one's ever heard of before, just because you've heard them on social media. Because if you want to do this right, using foundational, essentially, institutions or banks, that essentially the bigger banks that are going to survive everything, and the bigger institutions that will survive because they're behemoths, that would be a better option to use than these third-party, essentially, companies that are popping out of nowhere inside the crypto space. Look, BNY Mellon, for example, said they're not going to be releasing a token like every other institutional bank out there. Instead, BNY Mellon, a behemoth in the institutional sector, has said they're going to be creating services for the crypto space. So if you are planning to go do, to go through the option of LLC or trust, going with platforms like Franklin Templeton, BNY Mellon, Goldman Sachs, and so on is 10 times better, or HSBC Bank, or Standard Chartered Bank, or Ripple itself, if you want to go for XRP. That is 10 times better to do than to use these pop-up crypto companies that are coming out of nowhere and telling people they can do this and that for them for a certain price point, or a monthly, essentially, price, and so on. They're not trustworthy companies, and in some cases, most of them don't even have the correct licensings to operate. So don't rush it. I know there are people inside the crypto space right now. I'm not going to name any companies or any people or any influencers. I know there are people or companies inside the crypto space right now on X who are promoting LLCs and essentially trusts and some other services inside the crypto space. I wouldn't trust them with a 10-foot pole. Who I would trust is BNY Mellon, Franklin Templeton, Goldman Sachs, because these are companies that will withstand anything. And if anything does go wrong, they have 10,000 lawyers on hold. That is much more safer route to take than any random crypto company that's popping up on X right now, especially if a crypto influencer is promoting them. So, and honestly, again, I'm not going to name any of these crypto companies that are offering these services. I'm not going to name the influencers either. But the majority of these influencers and these crypto pop-up companies that are offering LLCs and so on, they don't even have the correct licensings to operate. They genuinely don't have the correct licensings to offer these types of services. And when things go sideways, you're stuck in the middle because you went through that company. So please be careful what you do inside the crypto space. Nobody will tell you the, essentially the entire, because if any of these crypto companies come out and say, we don't have full licensing, if the influencers that are promoting these LLCs, companies and inside the crypto space and so on, come out to people and say, they don't have full licensings, then nobody's going to go with them. So obviously they're not going to tell you that. And most people don't even look into that. They just go, oh, this crypto influencer that I like and he seems intelligent is offering this service, then maybe it's a good idea because I trust them. You shouldn't trust no one on the internet. So honestly, it's happened too often where people have trusted crypto influencers and then lost their entire asset, lost everything in their portfolio. Some people lost everything, some people lost some people lost all of it, and most of it or so on. So honestly, it's very important that you don't rush when there's barely any regulations or the bigger players still haven't offered the service. And especially don't rush into anything offered by crypto influencers through third-party crypto companies no one's ever heard of that barely have licensing to operate. Honestly, when things go sideways with those companies, a lot of people are going to be stuck in the middle. Mark my words. I said the exact same thing about Link2Go. 2 years before Link2Go collapsed, I said the exact same thing. I was offered essentially by Link2Go to promote them. I ignored their email 2 years ago. 3 years ago, I ignored their email. Because I could smell the BS before it happened. I saw it happening 2 years essentially before it happened. Honestly, I don't know how to stress it more. Please stop trusting these random crypto companies or these influencers with their promotions. Because, you know, this is what's going to help you escape, you know, the world that we're heading into. So don't rush it. Don't do anything, you know, moronic. Very important. We'll DM you. No problem, Davey. Miles, since Trump has come into power, have you changed your portfolio in any way? Yes. In certain ways I have. I'll post my new portfolio inside the Telegram group. 100% Davey. I looked up their licenses and they are not fully licensed anywhere else, only in Australia. So they are not covered with your assets if it goes south. Facts. I think the promoting and is not promoting. Yeah, I can't even say because I don't want to mention any because you know what, we live in a different world. We live in a world in the past. You know, we used to have communication, face-to-face debates or face-to-face confrontations and so on. We live in a world where everybody just, you know, is very sensitive and starts suing. And I don't have time for suings because I'm trying to run an entire, you know, I have a startup I'm trying to run and so on with correct licensings. And so I don't have time for suings with crypto influencers. So I don't mention their names. I don't mention the companies that they promote. Instead, I just give a majority warning signal. Miles, since Trump has come to power, have you yet? Another Link2Go in the making, waiting for regulations and more trusted institutions. Yep. Miles, 3 years ago, I said it on this live that I was conned back in 2016 for 120,000 K. So please listen to Miles. As you can see inside the comment section, Funky Brother has said 3 years ago, he said on my live show, 3 years ago, he said on my live show that he was conned out of his crypto back in 2016 for $120,000. And he's saying, please listen to Miles, which is me. I only want the best for everyone. And I don't ask for anything except likes and retweets is the only thing I ask for. A like, a retweet, and a comment outside the live is the only thing I've ever asked for. So yeah, I just want the best for people. People listen to me, they do well. You know, people don't listen to me. It's your option, it's your life, it's your money. Now, T-Row. T-Row price files essentially for active crypto ETF. So while this situation has been going on inside of crypto space where the market's been on shaky grounds and pretty much going everywhere, much respect, brother. Let's go, Ray. Staying in. Let's go, Ian. Hi, Miles. When the bull run can stop. Jolly, consider variable change. Do not trust anyone. Facts. Do not trust anyone. David, let's go. Who con who? Long time ago, Funky Brother situation. Staying in. Let's go, Ian. Now, while we've been having this shaky ground situation inside crypto space, institutions are expanding even further inside the crypto space. And At the very least, you deserve a like and a repost for all your guidance. Thanks, Miles. Thank you so much, Shelly. Honestly, for everyone who has smashed the like button and smashed the retweet button, thank you so much, CMF members. And if you haven't, just take 1 second to smash the like button and smash the retweet button if you watch us on X or on YouTube. So, T. Rowe Price, a $1.77 trillion asset management firm, has filed for an active cryptocurrency ETF in the United States. If you thought to yourselves, or people around you, for example, yesterday I was asked a question essentially on the live show, and someone said that their family or friends or colleagues are saying that the crypto space is going to be ending and so on. And he's not the only one. I have people around me as well that still don't understand this market space, but yet they want to give an opinion as if they are fully understood of what blockchain is, what it's going to achieve, what the licenses are, what the regulations are, or anything to do with the institutional sector or the financial sector. And again, while all this has been going on, a $1.77 trillion firm decided to file for an ETF. If the market space was done, you wouldn't be seeing companies like this coming forward. The T. Rowe Price, a $1.77 trillion asset management firm, has filed for an active cryptocurrency ETF in the US, marking its entry in the digital asset space. This move essentially signifies growing institutional interest in crypto investments and may influence regulatory frameworks while impacting regulated cryptocurrencies. T. Rowe Price, managing $1.77 trillion in assets, has filed for an active crypto ETF. The ETF is to hold essentially Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, other cryptocurrencies, XRP, and so on. The T. Rowe Price is pursuing essentially a broader diversification strategy, expanding its offerings into the growing crypto markets. This entry into the crypto markets by T. Rowe Price could potentially influence asset management industry dynamics, and institutional management, essentially investors, are observing this step even closely, as it essentially may signal a broader industry shift towards crypto assets. The ETF's introduction may affect financial markets, pushing essentially traditional investors to consider cryptocurrencies. The company's strategy aligns with global trends of asset managers exploring digital currencies despite the regulatory essentially uncertainties. Now, Brian Armour, ETF analyst at Morningstar, noted that T. Rowe Price entry is differentiated and comes late in the space, aiming to offer a unique product to the consumers. T. Rowe Price's crypto ETF filing joins a series of ongoing industry updates, and the regulatory environment remains pivotal to ETF's future operations, keeping markets and regulatory bodies vigilant regarding compliance. The launch of such an ETF can lead to increased crypto adoption, contributing to the market liquidity and diversity. That is incredible. Honestly, to be fairly honest, 100%. More companies expanding inside the crypto space at this level that we're in, instead of a shaky market space, just generally does show confidence towards even the retail section that institutions are still highly interested. Trillion-dollar institutions are still highly interested inside the crypto space, even as the market is shaky, because they know what's going to happen next. Clarity Act, which is regulations, which is utility. Now, Germany is what we're going to talk about next on tonight's live. And Australia. Germany expands to Australia with a asterisk essentially license as crypto adoption surges. So Germany does offer crypto bank cards like an XRP credit card essentially and some other credit cards. And Germany is coming to Australia. Germany has opened an Australian office, hired staff to build a service tailored for their local markets. This hyper-local essential strategy should help to bring more users and institutions on board looking for regulated access to the cryptocurrency market space. The Germany-Australia release is also a part of the firm's larger mission to further promote financial inclusion. Through its Australian exchange, Germany expects that it will provide a regulated and safe environment for users to buy and sell digital currencies. The launch has essentially aggravated by Germany-Australia support from the Australian Securities and Investment Commission, ASIC, in the last month. ASIC also implemented essentially a measure to reduce intermediaries' licensing obligations and supplying stablecoins. Germany, a crypto exchange, has launched a fully localized operation in Australia. This expansion marks the company's latest move in a rapidly growing Asia-Pacific region. The launch also aims to essentially meet the rising regional demands for digital assets as well. The new entity, essentially Gemini Australia, is now licensed by the Australian Transaction Reports Analysis Centre. So if you are an Australian citizen, soon expect a Gemini XRP card, it's essentially, or a Solana card, depending on which crypto assets you want to go for. But that is great news, honestly, for Australians. We're still waiting for Germany to be offering that type of service in the United Kingdom, to be fairly honest, but Australia is about to get it before us. Now, let's go back inside the comment section before we go through the next news. And the next news is regarding the Fed. It's a big one. It's an update on what we discussed yesterday. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see where we're at. We were at here. You saved me making many mistakes. Let's go, Shelly. Miles, thank you as you have guided me throughout my crypto journey. No problem. Funky bro, thank you so much, everyone, for the kind words. CMF family, let's keep it live and active on X to promote the CMF. Let's go. Miles, do not forget me. I am investing. I'm an OG and I'm asking from way back. Let's go, Scott. I'll never forget you. I hope Ripple stays private and doesn't go public. What do you think, Miles? I'm on the same page. I want Ripple to stay private. The more Ripple stays private and doesn't go public, the more it's able to control its own path, to be fairly honest. When a company goes public and it's, brings something to the table, companies like Franklin Templeton, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Grayscale, and so on, they'll stop buying essentially shares of that company and then start dictating its path. So the longer Ripple stays private, the longer it could dictate its own path in this financial sector. So I wanted to stay private as well, I'll be honest. Yay, let's go, Shelly. Miles, Russia is adopting cryptocurrencies as a method for cross-border payments. Yes, that is true. Russia is adopting cryptocurrencies as a method for its own payments. They're actually doing it through Kazakhstan, essentially is what they're doing it through, to be fairly honest. America's not happy about that in any sort of a way, that Russia is essentially going around their sanctions and using cryptocurrencies or stablecoins, especially USDT. But yes, that is happening, true. Now, yesterday's live show, we discussed regarding what the Fed has done for the crypto space, which is essentially providing a door, a loophole, or slightly opening the door for crypto companies, because crypto companies want to have access. One particular crypto company wants to have access to Fed master accounts, and this is going to do it for them even further, and it has given more hints. So yesterday's live show, we discussed about that particular regulation that the Fed is talking about to give access to third-party companies and to bring innovation. And here is a more of an updated version. Innovations in payment processing stir debate at the federal level. The landscape of payment processing is set for notable shifts, essentially as a recent proposal by the Federal Reserve Governor Chris Waller gains traction. This proposal advocates for a collaborative model where private entities drive innovation. While the Federal Reserve essentially ensures secure and efficient settlements as financial technologies take center stage, this model aims to balance public and private sector strengths without compromising security and reliability. Such changes promises to redefine how financial transactions are managed across various market spaces. Private firms have the capacity to innovate more swiftly than large governmental institutions. By empowering these firms, the private firms, to develop cutting-edge solutions at the front end of payment processing. The overall landscape might benefit from rapid technological advancements. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve's established infrastructure provides a robust settlement system to mitigate risk and promote stability. This approach represents various implications for stakeholders across the financial ecosystem. Commercial banks might face pressure to adopt to the speed of innovation in private companies. However, they can also leverage the secure settlement layer provided by the Federal Reserve, ensuring reliability for their clients. Fintech companies, on the other hand, see this as an opportunity to pioneer advanced payment solutions, opening new avenues for growth. So Senator Cynthia Luminous coming out today and saying that an open banking system is what we should have, where banks and crypto companies, this should be happening, innovation should be happening inside the United States. The Fed, Chris Waller, the governor, coming out and suggesting once again that we should be connecting the Federal Reserve, the banks, and the tech companies together to bring innovation. But most importantly, they mention the words private tech companies. Linda Zheng of Digital Self Lab supports the proposal, emphasizing this approach allows us to keep the Federal Reserve as a trusted entity for settlements. Her endorsements highlights the potential benefits of this cooperative model. Trust in established institutions like the Fed alleviates fears of systematic failures that could arise from rapid, unchecked innovation. Governor essentially Waller's proposition not only provides a vision for future payment avenues, but also presents tangible benefits to consumers. By combining trust, institutional, and oversight with nimble private sector innovation, transaction speeds and security could both see improvements. The Fed keeps on mentioning private sectors that are applying with the Fed, that are trying to work with the Fed and the banks. Out of the companies that have applied for Fed master accounts, or essentially for a bank trust license for the OCC, the only company technically that's private is Ripple. Because the other companies that have applied are all public companies, excluding Anchorage Digital Bank. The other companies are all public. Ripple's the only private company. At the same time, it also maintains that the balance between innovation and regulation. Zheng further explained that the potential outcomes, stating, the integration allows for effective risk management without stifling innovation. She believes that this is a balanced approach and will foster a more resilient payment infrastructure. The collaboration between sectors may ultimately enhance consumer trust alongside increased innovation potential. The proposal by Governor Waller reflects a need to harmonize innovation with regulations within the financial service sector. A fusion of the private sector with the public sector reliability promises improvements in how payments are executed and processed as financial technologies continue to advance. Striking this balance is crucial for creating a sustainable and secure future for financial transactions. It seems like the Fed is genuinely about to be opening its doors to companies like Ripple. Yes, they're also opening their doors essentially to Circle to a certain extent, depending on what they've applied compared to what Ripple has applied to, or Paxos, for example, other firms. But Ripple is the only one going for that Fed master account, technically. It's the only one that's essentially went for it. Ripple is the only private company, technically, that's also applied for this sort of licensing. And on the topic of Ripple and XRP, it's like they're giving hints. And on the topic of Ripple and XRP, the Japanese giant makes an announcement about XRP acquisition. So a few nights ago, we talked about essentially the $1 billion essentially of XRP that's going to be raised for essentially Evernorth, the company that SBI Holdings is going to be investing into, essentially raising money for Ripple and so on. And well, another company has came forward and decided to also join this group of essentially investors to start raising money for XRP. Japan-based gaming company Gummy announced that it has joined Evernorth's XRP-focused treasury initiative, led by SBI Holdings and Ripple Labs as a part of the public company private equity investment. According to the company's statement, the majority of the $5 million investment will be used to purchase XRP from the open market. Evernorth is a startup essentially aiming to drive enterprise-wide XRP adoption, and the company plans to merge with SPAC, called Amado essentially Acquisition Corp 2, trading on the Nasdaq under the ticker symbol XRPN, which we've talked about. Gummy's investment announcement stated that the funds raised will be used to create one of the world's largest public XRP treasuries. This treasury will not only hold, as I said, XRP, but it will also use it, which is very different to any other treasury out there. Gummy made the following statement. XRP is one of the few digital assets whose regulatory framework is beginning to be clarified in the US and whose usability in global payments has been proven. Investing in Evernorth offers a simple, high liquidity investment opportunity in XRP within the framework of regulated and audited public companies. Furthermore, Evernorth's activities will not be limited to market transactions only. It will also act as a validator to contribute to the growth of the XRP ledger ecosystem. That is a brilliant statement and an honest statement that come out essentially from Gummy's mouth regarding XRP is one of the few digital assets whose regulatory framework is beginning to be clarified in the US, and its utility in global payments has been proven. Apologies, everyone. Sorry about that. But to add on top of that, regarding what essentially Gemini said, XRP is not just a coin, is also what the CEO of the chief executive of a German venture capital firm said today. So with Gummy stating these words that, XRP has, thank you, Ray. With XRP has essential utility, bless you, bro. Thank you so much, Funky Brother, as well. Susie, thank you so much. With Gummy essentially saying that XRP has utility and is regulated, in terms of Ripple's regulated, let's take it a step further. The chief executive of a German venture capital firm, Tokenos Investment AG, has shared his perspective on XRP's role in a digital asset space. Oliver argues that the token functions as a part of a larger financial framework rather than operating as a standalone digital currency. So Oliver, the chief executive of a German venture essentially company, announced that XRP is more than just a coin or a token. It has pure utility. And XRP currently trading at around $2.40 after facing downward pressure following October 10th market decline. The token has moved sideways essentially for 7 months, though it posted gains of approximately 23% during a 4-week stretch before settling back into its current range. In an interview with German TV, Oliver addressed the chief executive of Tokenos, a venture capital essentially firm from Germany. Oliver addressed on that TV show the factors affecting XRP's price movement. He noted that the US government shutdown has delayed regulatory process inside the crypto sector, particularly regarding spot essentially ETFs, including for assets like XRP. Oliver also described the $2.40 to $2.50 price band as a dump money zone, categorizing it as a neutral territory. He advertised and she advised the market participants to observe rather than take immediate action, stating that XRP's direction will depend on Bitcoin's performance and overall market conditions in the weeks ahead. We get out of the weeks ahead, we go into Clarity Act, things change. The executive highlighted what differentiates XRP from other digital assets. He pointed to the infrastructure Ripple has constructed, which combines banking services, risk management tools, and blockchain technology into a unified system. A chief executive of a German venture capital firm coming out on German TV and saying XRP is more than just a token. And it's very different to what it brings towards the table compared to any other crypto asset out there, with Ripple being essentially its backbone, its main user. And Ripple creating a banking service or applying for license for the banking service as well, a risk management tool, a custody platform, a blockchain technology that's just a unified system for the financial sector. Oliver essentially referenced Ripple's acquisition of G Treasury, which recently happened, for $1 billion. The treasury management software company already operates with 13,000 banks, providing Ripple with established connections to traditional finance. This positioning could also facilitate a wider adoption of Ripple's technology across the banking sector. XRP is not just a coin, it is a part of a complete ecosystem. From a bank to a ledger, to a custody solution, to a treasury management software, Oliver stated. He suggested that ongoing feature additions will expand the network and potentially establish XRP and the XRP ledger as the leading platform for bridge currency applications. The leading platform XRP will be. The CEO also discussed Evernorth, a new entity supported by Ripple, major investors, and Chris Larsen. Evernorth plans to function as the largest publicly listed XRP treasury with $1 billion in backing. The company intends to purchase XRP as we discussed it. Michael views this development with G Treasury and Evernorth as a step towards institutional adoption and long-term price stability. Looking ahead, he anticipates XRP could climb and will jump essentially from its current price of $2.40 level to essentially this year, essentially we're talking about $6 to $9. Government shutdown ending, going into ETFs. And approvals materialize and market conditions improve, and the price will essentially start skyrocketing even further. This is a perspective from a chief executive on a German TV channel, and he is essentially the chief executive of a venture capital firm. That honestly, everything he has stated is pure factual. The services that Ripple is offering, the services is trying to still create, the licensing is trying to get, the licensing is still has, the acquisition is made, and acquisition is going to be making. Every step Ripple takes, it's expanding inside the financial sector even further. And it's now becoming essentially more visible to everyone in the institutional sector. In the past, Ripple was quite invisible. Not because it was a bad company, useless company, no, because they moved silently. Now, Ripple is becoming more visible in the eyes of institutions, in the eyes of CEOs, on a worldwide basis. This man didn't have to come out and say these words, but he did. And everything he said is quite factual. On that note, essentially, that Ripple is the chosen one. XRP is the chosen one. And the XRP ledger ecosystem essentially is going to be the leading bridge for currencies around the world. We have come to the endings of tonight's live. This was episode essentially 392 of the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, you tune to episode 393 tomorrow. Also, if you're joining for the first time ever, this is called CMF Live, stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. And I'll be seeing everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Obviously, before we do go, let's go inside the comment section. And a disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So, let's go inside the comment section, obviously, before we do leave. See what's happening. And then we'll call it a night. Is 30k XRP a lot? Some friends say is a lot. 30k XRP is a great amount. Hello again, Thompson. Good to see you. So how you doing, brother? Let's go XRP. Let's go CMF. Let's go Ray. Taps are frozen on X. I'm back on YouTube. Let's go Lena. Bless you. Thank you so much, Ray. Yes, Swift claimed that Ripple XRP has no future. CMF. Let's go. Facts. Exactly. Swift keep on mentioning Ripple has no future. XRP has no future. And then you have German essentially chief executives coming on live TV going, Ripple is the future. XRP is going to be bridging everything inside the financial sector. Bless you, bro. Let's go, Frankie, brother. Bless you, Miles. Thompson, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Jason. Thanks so much, Davey. Good night, Miles. When the time comes, I will be honored if you can help me with the procedure of borrowing my assets and also accompanying me in the process of immigration to another country with my assets. No problem, call. I think many members of the CMF family will need it, so I will renew my request before 2027 because time flies. Thank you in advance for this generous offer to support the CMF members. No problem, anytime. Hi, good evening. How you doing? That's crazy. Night, Miles and CMF. Paolo, let's go. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. Good night, Miles and all CMF. Thank you for a great live and news. Let's go, JPC, tomorrow sometime as usual. Thanks, Miles and CMF. Davey, see you tomorrow sometime as usual as well, brother. Thanks, Miles. Great live as always. Night and day, CMF. Let's go, Shelly. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. Take care, Miles and CMF. Ray, see you tomorrow sometime as usual as well. XRP is the chosen one along with XLM. Let's go, Facts. Thompson, see you tomorrow sometime as usual. Thank you, Miles and CMF. Take care and see you tomorrow. Mike, see you tomorrow, brother, sometime as usual. Great live, Miles. Thank you. Good night, Miles and CMF. Jason, see you tomorrow sometimes as well. As Brad Gullinghouse said, they will take over the financial system of the world. Ripple are not here to play. Exactly. Let's go, Funky Brother. See you tomorrow sometimes as usual. They go together. Facts. Let's go. Thank you, Miles. Have a good evening, everyone. Let's go, Ghost Runner. See you tomorrow sometimes as usual as well. Thank you, Miles. Good night, all. Let's go, Stormy. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Great job again tonight, Miles. Again, let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Know what you hold. XRP. Let's go. Facts. Let's go, Funky Brother. XRP and XLM to the moon. Let's go. Thank you so much, Miles, for updating us. Good night, all. Lena. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great job, as always, Miles. Thank you very much. Have a good night, all. Let's go, Carlos. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Let's go, Scott. Let's go, Stormy. 1.4K watching on X. Let's go. Thank you so much to everybody from the CMF and non-CMF members who smash the like buttons and smash the retweet buttons. Honestly, thank you so much to everybody who likes and retweets every live show on X if you watch this on X. And thanks so much to everybody who likes and retweets, who likes essentially these live shows on YouTube as well. And thanks so much to everybody who subscribed or followed me during this live show as well. Welcome to the CMF. Good night to... Good night, Miles and CMF. Thanks for all the updates and great news. See you tomorrow. Free forever. See you tomorrow, sometimes usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Talk. See you tomorrow, sometimes usual as well. Good night to my great online family. Let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow, sometimes usual. Good night, Miles, and thank you once again. Thank you, brother. See you tomorrow, brother. Sometimes usual. Love you, Miles, my brother. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow, sometimes usual. Good night, brother. Thanks again for another brilliant live stream. FXRP, if you want to go for it. I asked a question about FXRP earlier. Oh, I didn't see it, Thompson. Sorry about that. FXRP. Sure, but staking XRP is a bit risky because I don't trust any platform, to be fairly honest. The only platform I would ever trust with my XRP is Ripple itself when they start offering services. Let's go, Ray. I'll see everybody tomorrow. Same timing as usual, 10 p.m. London time onwards. Thank you so much for everyone, for all the likes and retweets, essentially CMF members. If you followed and subscribed, thank you so much, and welcome to the CMF. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around. Love you all. See you tomorrow for episode 393 tomorrow.